Thank you, Bob. The next component that we want to talk about is the reserve fund. For those of you that are new to the community, what we do is that everything that we own has a life to it. And that life is determined of when the end of life is going to occur and what it's going to cost to replace it. Look around this room, from carpet to chairs to light bulbs, etc. All of those have an end of life, and we say, if we replace them in X year, what should that cost? So this year, for the second time in 3 years, we had an updated reserve study conducted by Reserve Advisors, which is one of the premier companies in this country that does this for a living, and came out and did a site inspection. They picked up some things that they missed the first time. 2014 was their first trip out here, and they missed some things. So they incorporated those. We've added new things, they've incorporated those. And so we've come through now and we've identified everything that's in the 2017 budget or study, and we have now got a 2017 budget for the reserve fund. Prior to 2017, the year that we're in, we strictly ran off of that study. If they said, for example, that no roads in the community would need to be placed prior to 2021, that's what we did so far as planning our budget prior to this year. But with the skill set that this man has just demonstrated, and with the leadership skill, both of our general manager and our lead managers, such as Rose Sherbert and Kaylin Olson and others, we went and said, you know, those roads on the east side can't make it to 2021. So this past year, fortunately with the cash that we had, that we were able to pull forward $750,000 to do the first half of the roads on the east side. This coming year, in 2018, we will do the second half of the roads on the east side. Neither one of those were supposed to happen until 2021 or 2022. But we're doing them in 17 and 18, partially because of the income that we generated, which mitigated the cost in the future. But now we have a budget that says some things go forward, but other things don't need to be done. For example, that same reserve study said we needed to buy 3 pickup trucks. In talking to the staff, we really only needed to do 2. So how many did we do? 2, not 3. So now we've got not only the skill of the reserve advisors, but we have real eyes looking at it and say, what can we do without, and what do we need sooner? So that's the approach that we took to the reserve study. And Bob, would you share with us?
Yeah, this will be a little quicker, promise. Just as with the operations, we started with an update to the forecast for this year. And you can see that we began the year with just under $3 million in the reserve combination of cash and fixed income investments. We'll generate at least $44,000 of income. Steve said earlier that monthly contribution in 17 was for $75 per homeowner per month, which generates just short of $1.3 million in monthly contributions from dues or assessments. $62,500 was reimbursed to the reserve fund as a result of audit adjustments that were made at the end of 16. $48,000 of landscaping had been funded earlier in the year out of the reserve fund. We changed our accounting policy during the audit. We were advised that we could get an immediate tax deduction for that expenditure. We did not have to capitalize it and depreciate over a period of time. And so what we did is we moved that expenditure to operating expenses, a cross-fund charge in the form of an audit adjustment. By policy, all operating expenses must be funded from operating cash. No operating expenses can be funded from other than operating cash. It's critical to remember that. So that reimbursed from operating cash to the reserve fund $62,500. I've got the expenditure up there, which is the original budget, because as we go through and looking at the plus and minuses, for the purposes today, it's all of 1.9 million, which is about $1 million more than we have ever spent from the reserve fund since the handoff from Lennar. Projected balance at the end of the year, $2,417,000. We moved to 18. Beginning balance, same, a little bit less in the way of investment income. Proposed increase, $5 per homeowner per month, $80. Generating $1,384,000. And if you thought we spent a lot of money this year, look at next year. $2.2 million. The big ticket items in there, $770,000 to finish the repaving on the east side. We had significant golf course equipment expenditures totaling $357,000. In the reserve study for next year, we pulled forward the complete renovation of the restrooms right outside this door and in the hallway next to the pro shop. $131,000. And then finally, in the budget for this year, we had $131,000 to replace the equipment in the wellness center, and we had about $80,000 to redo the locker rooms. We realized early in the year that this was not going to get it done. We were going to spend a lot of money, and we were not going to get that big a benefit, starting from the fact that the fitness center was just way too small. That discussion early in the year resulted in the decision to go forward with the clubhouse repurposing project. Once we moved along in that direction, we knew that there was $213,000 that would not be spent this year, but could be spent in 18 as part of the repurposing. That $213,000 savings, unfortunately, was offset by being woefully short on the estimate to repair the pool mechanical equipment downstairs. So at the end of the day, it was essentially a push. So with those numbers, we would finish next year with $1,614,000 in the reserve fund, and the repaving of the roads for the west side and in north will stay in the reserve study as being a 2021, 2, 3, and 4 expenditure.